What's that? A coffee machine. Somebody's drinking some coffee. Okay, so we are live. So what I'm gonna do, we are live on YouTube. So if those of you want to switch off your videos, you're more than welcome. And I will start sharing my screen. Yeah, it sounds like it. Okay. All right. Okay. So welcome to everybody that is joining us tonight. For those of you who joined late, just to let you know, I am live streaming this session on YouTube. So feel free to shut down your video if you do not want to be on the live stream. Let me just check that again. Yeah, so we are still live streaming. All right, and how the session is going to work is I will go through a little bit of theory, if you can call it like that, and then I'm going to take you through an exercise based on what I've discussed tonight. Then I'll shut down the live stream and you guys can come back on video and we can talk through some questions that you might have. Now, you guys are more than welcome to put any questions in the chat box. I am not going to monitor the chat box while I'm busy with the session. What I am going to do though is you guys, once we go back to the Q&A at the end, I will then go through the questions, but feel free to go in the chat box, talk and chat, but just so you know that I'm not going to pay attention to that. It's a little bit difficult to do both while I am busy with this session. All right, so let's kick this off. I want to welcome you to the online mental performance workshop. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Petreline from Explosive Minds, and I'm a peak performance coach. And I've been in the medical industry all my life, and I've always been fascinated by how the mind works, right? And how that impacts our behavior. And it wasn't until a business coach about 2 years ago told me about a book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, that this whole mind-body connection that there is and that we have just absolutely, it blew my mind what I read and the science and the research that they were doing. And then throughout my NLP practices, what then happened is I came across a book, Red Gold. It's not the Red Gold, but Red Gold by Gregory Ryport. And he wrote specifically about the mental performance program that the USSR and East Germany used leading up to the 1988 Olympics. And you guys will read, for those of you who are old enough, will remember that they just absolutely obliterated that Olympics at like 132 medals, 55 gold medals. And what was interesting at that time is that the whole program that they followed was top secret, because the special services also used this exact same program. But obviously now with the dissolution of the USSR, some of those techniques are really nothing new and are techniques that some of the people actually do use already. And I wanted to share those. But also what I wanted to do is to share like small little exercises and techniques from next week onwards that they had, very easy to practice them, to sort of get your mind to a place where you can be focused and pay attention to what it is that's going on around you. All right, so for those of you who do not know me, I am just checking here if everything is still fine. Okay, so I am a nurse by training. I've worked in the emergency room. So like this slide sums up my life pretty much. I worked in the emergency room for about 4 to 5 years. Learned a ton. You grow up fast when you just come out of college and you are being put into situations like that, where you're like practically still a child and you have to tell people that the child is dead or things like that. So you really grow up fast in an environment like that. And then after that, I moved over to medical research in the corporate industry. I've been there for practically 18, 19 years. That's where I spent most of my time. But during that time, I became interested in the health coaching. That's where I started off, was mainly focused on being a keto health coach and coaching individuals through their weight loss, interested really in the whole concept of food addiction and sugar addiction, because that's really the area where people struggle. That took me to what's going on in your mind in a person that's addicted to something, right? Because whether you're addicted to food or whether you're addicted to alcohol, it's the exact same process that's going on. And that journey sort of took me to where I am now as a peak performance coach, where I coach executives and high performance athletes currently in enhancing their performance. So yeah, this picture pretty much sums it up in terms of where I am in my journey and what's going on. Now, true by my nature, unfortunately, today's session is going to be a little bit nerdy, sciencey, maybe. But I promise that I'm going to try and explain everything as simple as possible. I'm a simpleton. I like to break things down so that the everyday person can understand that. And like I said, you're more than welcome to pop your questions in the chat box. I will go back at the end of the session and then I will have a look at that and we can work through those once we've done the technique and everything tonight. So the session tonight will take about just over 60 minutes. Then, of course, depending on the questions that you guys might have. But yeah, we will not go longer than 90 minutes. Okay. So I am going to just check the chat box to see, yeah, that there isn't like folks that have trouble or something. But other than that, I'm going to leave whatever is in the chat for after the session. So this 3-part series, I'm going to focus on what happens when we have a thought versus eventually something that goes over into a behavior. We will talk about resistance to change. Why does people find it so difficult to actually go into that mode of changing something, changing a habit, changing something in their lives? We're going to focus on consciousness and attention. We'll speak a little bit about that tonight, but not so much. Self-control and limiting beliefs will come in one of the next sessions. Then we'll go over to the state of optimal function. What does that mean? What does that state mean? And then identify yourself with your winning self, which is sometimes a very difficult thing for people to do because they know what they want. They have a big dream and a big vision, but it's very hard for them to see themselves there and to really believe that they can actually get there. And then at the end of this all, after the 3 weeks and the 3 sessions, what do you do with this information? How do you implement it, and how do you take this going forward into your life? The great thing about this is, even though the workshop is focused on high performing athletes, this is really something you can implement in any area of your life where you want to be a better performer. It doesn't matter what it is, in your career, in your marriage, even in your, if you own a business, whatever you do. These techniques and things that I'm going to teach you, you can use in any area of your life where you want to improve your performance. So today's topics, what I'm going to cover is how our thoughts create who we are. In other words, our biology, like the person that is there. How did you come about being that person from a thought alone? And then we're going to talk a little bit about internalization. And then I'm going to take you through a first part of a mental rehearsal exercise, something that you can go out and practice this week as well. And I want you to for today's session, like really lean into the session, really focus on the session, be present. If you have kids running around, do not stress about it. Don't worry about it. If you have to like put out a fire behind you, all I'm asking is that you do go back. You guys will all get a link to the recording, that you do go back and watch the recording and then do the exercise so that you can go through that process and experience what the folks have experienced today on the meeting. So let's kick it off. First of all, I quickly want to ask you something. Do you believe? You can now see the questions and I want you to vote. Do you believe, and it is anonymous, you can just press your answer. Do you believe that the way you think has some sort of impact on your life and your future? And do you have a clear goal, vision of your future? Do you absolutely know that you're heading in this direction? And when I talk about a clear goal or a clear vision, it doesn't mean like you have a dream. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you know where you're going. You have a clear intentional path. You've set it out. You know how you're going to get there. Okay. All right. So we have 8 people said, all of you, in fact, said that you believe that the way you think has some sort of impact on your life and your future. That's great news. Otherwise, this workshop would have meant nothing for you. But then all of you said that you do not yet have a clear vision or a goal of your future, and that there's certain things that you still obviously can do to know where you're heading and what direction you want to head and how you're going to get there. So that is good news. We can work on that. So that's where we have all of the questions. All right, so let's start this session. Okay, now we all experience life through our 5 senses. Now we know this, right? Because we are being taught this in biology in high school or in school. But I don't think people do understand and acknowledge exactly what does that mean. What does that mean for us as adults as well? And even for children still growing up, because we can have a big influence on what's happening in their lives while they grow up. So we all experience life through our 5 senses, right? We smell things, we hear things, we see things, we taste things, and then there's also, we get like a feeling or your gut feeling, or we grasp certain things. Now, when information comes into your mind, so you walk throughout the day and you have all of these bits and pieces of information that's coming in from your environment through your 5 senses. Now your brain, and we'll speak a little bit more about this next week, and about how does your brain decide what to filter and what to keep and what to throw out, because it's impossible for you to keep all of that information or to take that all in. Your brain would not be able to process that. Your brain will explode. So, but nevertheless, the information comes into our conscious mind, and then when we attach meaning to it, then we create a memory of that thought. And our brains then order it and then file it in our subconscious mind. So it's really like a snapshot of an experience or a picture in a photo book. So if you think about the picture in the photo book on the coffee table, and you have friends over and you page through the photo book and you sit there and you just see a snapshot of, let's say, a vacation, just the pictures. But you can clearly remember that incident, you can clearly remember that day, and you chat about it and you feel excited and joyful about that experience. So that's literally how our minds work. And though even it's just literally a picture that you see, it's almost like you relive that experience and like you're in that experience. And our mind does exactly the same thing with memories and thoughts that come in. Create a memory, make a snapshot, and file it in your subconscious mind. So that's pretty much what happens. Oopsie. So to understand the process of thinking and feeling, so every time you have a thought, there is a biochemical reaction that happens in your brain, like your brain's connections fire, right? So it lit up, it fires, something's happening, and there's that biochemical reaction in your brain. And that causes a particular emotion or a feeling or a sensation. That's where emotion comes from. I don't think people realize that that's actually where, like, how you feel or emotion. I feel happy, I feel sad. That's where it comes from. It's because of that neurons that fire together. So your body will get this chemical message then from your brain, and then your body, what will instantly happen, it will comply by initiating a chain of reactions to make sure that your body reacts exactly the way that your mind is thinking. So that's sort of how that process works. So pretty much how it goes, thought comes into your mind, your brain kickstarts a chain of chemical reactions, and you start to experience certain emotions or sensations in your body physically. Now, what I mean by that is when you, just as you looked at that picture that was in the photo book, you remember that memory of the vacation, your heart started racing, you started smiling. So there are physical changes in your body when you think about that experience or that memory. The same thing goes for when something sad has happened. If something sad has happened in your life or something traumatic, and you think about that, the memory comes up, you're going to feel sad, you're going to have certain emotions, and you might start to cry even. So that physical expression of your body is what we call about when we talk about there are physical changes in your body because of emotions. So because you experience that change in your physical body, we now say that you are changing your physical state, or we say you're changing your state of being. So now you can see how a thought can change your state of being. And that is important to grasp, because the rest of the information is going to be make it very clear in terms of how then have we ended up where we are? How then have we ended up being the people that we are? And if we know this, then now we know what we can do to actually change that going forward. So we think, all of us, they've measured this, put EEG monitors on people's heads, and they measure this. We all think about 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts a day. However, 90% of those thoughts are the exact same thoughts we all thought yesterday and the day before. And when we have that specific thought, our brains create a specific chemical reaction that will create the emotions, as I've explained, and it will make you feel a certain way. Now, that chemical reaction is unique to that particular experience, unique to that thought, unique to that behavior, and unique to the emotions that you feel. So every single brain connection that fires up is specific to that particular experience. And these emotions that you have, and thoughts and emotions that you have, will eventually lead to specific choices that you make. Those choices will lead to a specific behavior you're going to display. So let's take an easy example is somebody that snacks all the time. I'm going to use a weight loss example. Or let's use a sport example where somebody needs to get up and go and train and practice, but they really do not want to. So then they will experience certain emotions and sensations in their body, and they're going to like suddenly maybe physically feel more tired. They're going to make a choice. I'm not going to train. And their behavior will be, I'm going to lie in bed, or I'm going to lie in front of the TV. I'm just not going to put on my clothes and go out and train. Now those same habits and actions then again creates the same experience all over again. It will give you a particular outcome, and that outcome will kickstart the same thought again. So that's how you can go around in that same loop with the same thought and same experience that you have. Now, in neuroscience, there is a terminology we call neuroplasticity, if you haven't heard about that yet. Neuroplasticity is really the change in neural pathways, in other words, in neural connectivity that there is in your brain. And it occurs due to certain factors, behaviors and emotions and all sorts of stuff. But we've been taught, I remember when we were little, we've been